Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our special Williamsport City Council meeting. It's Monday, April 25th, 7 p.m. We're in Trading Transit 2, 3rd floor. Please rise for the invocation, followed by the flag salute and roll call. We're here this evening to perform a specific function outlined in our charter law, filling a vacancy of an elected position. As we work through that work tonight and through that work on Thursday, guide us in our questions that we ask and steer us in a good course that is best for our constituents in the city and help us through that process. In your name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call the roll quickly. Mr. Allison? Here. Mr. Mackey? Here. Mr. Pelizzi is absent. Mr. Leiter? Here. Ms. Mealing? Mrs. Cass is absent. Mr. Yoder is here. So we have a quorum of 5. Limited courtesy of the floor, we've had a request tonight. We'll move into the main item of the agenda, interviews for city treasurer. So we received the resignation of city treasurer Nick Grimes Friday the 15th, I believe. Mr. Grimes is elected to take employment outside of the city. What that does is when we have a vacancy in any elected office, it triggers a process to fill it, that position by city council. So we advertised starting Monday the position of city treasurer. We had advertised that through Monday today at noon. We received 4 applications. 2 applicants are here with us tonight. One applicant did not fulfill the residency requirements and thus was not able to be interviewed and fill the position. And we had another applicant that declined to be interviewed. They accepted employment at another firm. And so we have 2 candidates here. So we will commence interviews for each of these candidates. And then based on those interviews, we will accept nominations to fill the role on Thursday and take a vote on city council. Treasurer Grimes' resignation is effective May 1st. And so we have 30 days up until that to fill the vacancy. So we are working ahead, which is nice. We are with the goal of trying to fill it as soon as we can to minimize any disruption to the office, ensure that the staff have leadership in place as quickly as possible, certainly. So we're working ahead, and I'm happy about that very much. So we will go through and interview candidates. So I'll bring forward Ms. Shawna Royal first. If you like, have a seat. I want to take 5 or so minutes and just introduce yourself. Talk about your background, why you're interested in the position, and then we can take 10 minutes or so and ask questions, and we'll go from there. So I'll give the floor to you, Ms. Royal.
Thank you. My name is Shawna Royal. I've lived in the city of Williamsport for about 20 years now. I've had a few different careers. I have managed a few bars and restaurants in the city as well. I went back to school about 5 years ago for medical assisting. I did that for 2 years and I didn't care for it. Thankfully, I got out of it just before the pandemic hit. I'm currently a bank teller at Jersey Shore State Bank. I recently received a promotion and I'm up for another one there as well. I'm efficient, reliable. This job kind of fell into my lap with Nick giving me a call and saying I'd known him for a number of years and telling me that he thought that I would be a perfect fit for this. I spent some time with him at the office last week just to kind of get a feel for things and see how his daily day runs. Spent definitely something that I'm interested in. I love new challenges. I love to have my plate full and experience new adventures, and I think that that's what this could be. So,
All right, well, thank you very much for that background and overview and introduction. Very much appreciate it. I'll give the floor to members of council if they have any questions for Ms. Royal. Mr. Allison.
Thanks for stepping forward and showing the initiative to apply for this position, which is a job, and it's also an elected official.
Absolutely.
You understand that. I guess my questions would be more towards not the specific things that you've done here, which, it's a good resume. The job of treasurer has expanded over the past several years due to Nick.
Right.
It used to be, there was a former treasurer once that told me, well, you should run for treasurer. It said, it's only 2 busy times for the year, and then you can go golf. The rest of the time. I was like, oh, but that was a way to the way things were done. That was the model, and there was nothing wrong with that. That's what it was. He took care of the taxes, the real estate taxes, things like that. But now Nick has integrated other parts of the financial things of the city and the different departments. The treasurer's an elected official, but there's other elected officials like the controller. There's the financial office, which is a higher position, financial director, but he's seen a way that it all integrates together, as well as looking for things beyond the treasurer's office about bringing income into the city through investments that the city could possibly make, or better use of where we put our money, all those kinds of things. And one other, well, I'll follow that up with one other question. So do you see yourself fitting into that type of scenario, being able to take on the nuts and bolts of what's going on at the office, but also to branch out into those other areas?
I do. I always look for ways to make things more efficient and just bring more things from outside. He had explained to me how he's worked with the other people and he's found ways to find back taxes and work together with the transit center. So yeah, I think that I could definitely, I work very well with others and branching out into different offices and different people. I could.
Okay, and we're looking at different ways to improve our financial software throughout the city. Are you comfortable with learning different things like that, usage of different software, computer usage, all of that, generating reports?
Absolutely. I worked on several systems when I was doing the medical assisting at River Valley Health and Dental. I worked on several systems there. At the bank, we use a couple different ones, and yeah, I'm always willing to learn.
Okay, and one part of the responsibility of the treasurer is to address council at different times during the year, especially during the budget, but all throughout the year. Addressing council and questions that come up during our regular council meetings, which are every other Thursday throughout the year. And are you comfortable right now, it appears, would you be comfortable in that environment, like bringing information, fielding questions, and those kinds of things?
Absolutely. Once I know it and I got it. So, yeah.
All right.
And I will.
I'll hand the ball over to.
Thank you, Mr. Allison. Mr. Mackey.
Mr. Royal, thank you for being here tonight. You know, in speaking to Nick the last week or so, you know, it's his opinion that there's not a lot of people who actually have a lot of knowledge of the taxes that he actually collects and the specific work. So, you know, for me, things that I'm looking for are people who are obviously willing to learn, people who can learn quick, because there's going to be a bit of a turnaround here. I feel like for anyone. I know Nick's not going to leave us hanging. I know he's going to have a really good transition in place for whoever gets this job. But I mean, customer service is obviously very important. Well, we will be one of the more public faces of the city with people coming to pay their taxes. A lot of people still come. I still go to pay my taxes in person, and I can say from personal experience that I've never had a bad interaction with anybody that's ever worked in an office, even before I was on city council. But how do you feel like your past experience will help you with the customer service? I mean, we have the financial side, obviously, of this job, but there's really a big customer service aspect of this job. I mean, how do you feel like your past experience will
It's not just my past, it's my current experience as well. I deal with a ton of customers at the bank, and I solve problems. I'm an empath, so like I listen to them. Every day there's something different going on there, and whether it's bad or good, I've just always been able to, you know, just take them and help them, put them in the right spot.
And you feel like you have the ability to work with a lot of different, the lack of stakeholders, you know, in our government. So speaking of, you know, obviously city council, mayor, administration, department heads, you have the ability to kind of, do you have the ability, you think, to you know, multiple different aspects of the city?
I do.
Maybe even at all at once.
I do. I mean, even now today, like I was talking about this earlier, like I deal with everything from like lawyers to homeless people that come into the bank, and like one extreme to the next, and I've always been very well with them.
Before I yield the floor to other questions from members of the council, I would like to ask a follow-up question. It was on my list that kind of plays in well with what Mr. Mackey was asking. So, can you speak to how you would manage a situation where you're told to do something by another elected official or office, but you don't agree with it? The reason I asked that question, this is an elected office. You'll be a appointed elected official. To keep the job, you have to run for re-election next year. You don't work for anybody. You don't work for the mayor. You don't work for the controller. You don't work for city council. And that dynamic can be a bit odd sometimes. So can you speak to, you know, how you might manage a potential situation that you might find yourself in down the road? It's likely you won't, but nonetheless, it's a bit of a oddity. So
I would do my best to come to an understanding with whomever the issue is with, and work out the best plan that would be the best for the city or the office, whatever the issue would be.
thank you. I'll give the floor.
Yeah.
Maybe go again. I'm sorry, by the way, about this interview format. I'm sure that at a major aware that we have to allow for members of the public to come in
Absolutely.
and watch the interview process. That makes for a sort of awkward setup. I cannot imagine participating in the job interview in a setting like this on camera, et cetera, et cetera. To follow up on what Adam was saying, I think the particularly interesting thing about the treasurer's office is that not only is it independent and is it kind of its own fiefdom after a fashion, but because financial integrity is so very important in the city government or any government, and because we want to be completely accountable to our taxpayers, we have several different offices dealing with finances within the city. So there's the treasurer's office, which collects the taxes. There's the financial office, which handles payroll, dispersing of checks, et cetera. And then there's the controller's office, which ascertains that all the expenditures are in fact what they should have been. And I guess, and then the mayor's office, which of course is obviously requesting expenditures, et cetera, et cetera. So when Adam says it's not that there have been many conflicts, but there is definitely potential for conflict there, or for disagreement, because there are so many different people having to agree on financial path forward. Right. So I don't think, and I'm sure that if you spoke to Nick, he was honest with you about whether or not he's not in a position to be stressful in that way, but there is the potential for both stress within city government, and then of course, certainly tax collectors and treasurers rank high above meter maids in terms of people's love-hate relationship with them. But I know that, I'm sure periodically the current treasurer and all past treasurers have received angry calls from taxpayers. So there's maybe a little bit of opportunity for conflict there as well. But clearly, I think your past work history, you worked as a bar manager, correct?
Yes.
So you probably have some experience with conflict. And none of this will be at 2 o'clock in the morning, which definitely recommends it. But I think, I don't know that we can emphasize enough the extent to which it is different from being an employee. And I'm sure that Nick explained to you the process of running for office, because he's often done these once. That too makes this a pretty wildly different position from any sort of other employment opportunities. Do you think that you're comfortable with that as a strategy for retaining employment?
Absolutely, I do, yes.
Okay. Do you have any experience running for office or helping other people run for office? Anything like that?
No.
Okay. Well, certainly if you achieve the position, I would recommend that you talk to other elected officials. Clearly,
Right.
Who should be a great resource, but also everyone else, because it is a totally different ball of wax from actually holding the position. Yeah. Yeah. And then just talk to me a little bit about your financial acumen. And as you know, the treasurer basically takes in finances, but what Nick has been particularly helpful to us with in terms of financials is Nick has really evaluated the city's potential for increasing our earnings through the tax collector's office, through collecting certain taxes that we previously had farmed out to third parties. That really added a lot of value to Nick as a treasurer. Talk to me about your experiences with previous employment. I know you mentioned as a bar owner that you were looking to, or as a bar manager, you were looking to help optimize sales within the facility. But talk to me about how you see yourself as somebody who can look for ways to maximize earnings, minimize expenditures, and how you think you might apply that to a position like this.
Obviously, this would be all new to me, and I'm willing to learn and get it down. Nick talked to me about a couple different things. As you were saying, he managed to find some that weren't being paid or whatever. I would just try my best to follow in those footsteps and learn as much as I can from him. He said the previous treasurer had left books of notes there. Nick is very efficient. He had explained to me how he's done everything to make the office more efficient. A lot of times he just sits around and looks for ways to be more efficient. And I would just try my best to do that. At this point, I don't really have a good answer because I've never been in this position before, but I would do my best.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we all understand that it's a hard thing to address what the needs of the treasurer's office are, because unless you've been a treasurer previously, which would also be unusual. But, you know, it's a tough one, but bear in mind that it's something that we, I think, are looking for in the candidate that we'll choose, is the ability to try to help us maximize the revenue that we take.
My curiosity question for you is, why leave your current employer if you have a track record of getting a recent promotion and then with hopefully one coming to be the public face of the tax agency here in the city of Williamsport, and then have an election you're going to have to go through within 18 months?
I am happy at my job. I love Jersey Shore State Bank. I can't say good enough things about that. I was recently promoted and there's a possible promotion in the next few weeks. I like new challenges, and I've never been a job jumper or anything like that, but I like to learn new things, and I feel like this is something that I could do and be really good at. I like to think I'm really good at everything I do. But it is, this would just be not, I don't even want to say a challenge, because I don't think it would be a challenge, but it would be just learning something new and being able to put forth my best efforts to be good at this job.
Have you ever prepared a budget for a particular department, anything like that, to make sure that you stay within those budget confines?
As close to budgeting that I came would be like liquor or food sales, when I was in the restaurant business. But that's the most of it.
Are there any other questions from our members of council? The only other question I have, this is a bit of a political question. I'll give you a little bit of context. So over the past couple of decades, we've had a handful of different vacancies, both in the treasurer's office previously, but on council. We don't have to do this, but council is informally taking the approach of filling the position with somebody of the same party. And I think it's a good idea and a good process. You know, the most recent examples are when Mayor Slaughter was elected mayor, we filled his seat with a Democrat, Mr. Dave Banks, and he filled out right his term, and that was a great move because he did an outstanding job. Similar situation with Mr. Grimes. He took over for, I believe, Mr. Tom O'Connor, who was Republican. So the simple question, are you a registered Republican? I asked that again just with the context of that informal process, and you know, it was duly elected.
I am, I'm a registered Republican.
Excellent, thank you very much. No other questions from other members? Mr. Royal, thank you so much for sitting through this very public interview, as was really duly pointed out. And see.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you so much. All right. We'll move on to our second candidate, Mr. Kevin Mackey. You're welcome to have a seat. If you want to take about 5 minutes or so, and similarly, just introduce yourself, talk about your background, what drew you to the position, etc. And then we can proceed with questions.
I just want to say first off, no relation to the current Mr. Mackey over there. I'm from New York. I came from over there because I love the Williamsport. I actually went to college over here. I went to college. I graduated from there in 2017. I went to school there for managerial economics, and I minored in music. I'm trying to appreciate the uptown music collective downstairs, waiting for you guys.
We do often, so.
Oh yeah, I love it. I
Unusual
originally,
to soundtrack to your council meeting.
It is. It's not a bad thing sometimes.
I originally went to high school in New York for New York Military Academy, where it taught me a lot about discipline and integrity. and kind of made me who I am today. And LICO kind of helped bring more confidence to what I do with my life. And as I was going back to New York after I graduated, I realized that I missed Williamsport. And since going to school here in 2013 to 2022 now, it feels nice to have actually set down my roots in the area and try to bring back what I used to feel and that nostalgia from Hudson Valley where I grew up, the Susquehanna Valley now.
All right. I don't say no.
That's all right, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. All right, we'll move forward for questions from members of council.
Yeah.
You want to go same question, same order? I don't know.
Might as well. So the same questions, you heard the same explanation, so I'm not gonna repeat some of the things, but I'll just hit the main points, the software issue. If we upgrade to new financial software, are you comfortable in that kind of environment, adapting to?
I spent about 2 years learning at a computer repair, so it's not on the resume. I love learning new technologies, learning new programs. I'm a constant advocate that we move to the most efficient software there is, not without going and jumping, saying, oh, this new thing is just out now, we need to go directly to this. No, we're going to put it through the paces to make sure it's actually going to do its job first before we move to it. But I'm always looking to use new programs to increase my productivity at work. And I'm a big advocate at that my current employer right now over at MT.
So you've had experience in that.
Yes, sir.
Interacting with the other departments you've heard about, the financial department, which is an interior, but the controller who's an elected official, the mayor who's an elected official. Are you comfortable in that kind of environment, talking to people that are peers on your level as an elected official, council people as well, and dealing with people who are hired but in positions that deal with the finances or any department that might have an interaction with you?
Yes, sir. I believe the first thing you're going to have to do is just get the communication going on with your peers. That's always going to have to be a start once you are in a new position. And once you've established that, you can work on creating better understanding between the different areas of your job.
Okay. And, as an elected official, you're going to address council every other week, and at other times during the budget, numerous occasions that you may be called to present more information on a variety of different subjects. Are you comfortable with doing that, speaking in public, knowing you're going to be televised like you are now?
Yeah, the television today wasn't really expected, but I don't mind that at all. The military school, they actually taught us from a young age about how to do presentations. And I had a wonderful sergeant from the construction battalions who was wonderful enough to teach us all at a young age again, how to do presentations, how to stand up in front of people and see pronunciation.
Thank you. And then finally, are you comfortable, my mind asks, expanding the scope of, or working with the expanded scope of the treasurer's office and doing the things that Nick has, a lot of things that he's introduced, being able to research those and carry on with that and expand where possible or needed?
Yes, sir. I actually like trying to find out where I can gain more sources of revenue. Currently doing it with my personal life. I've expanded stocks, rental businesses, different forms of employment just to try and give myself more of an opportunity. I believe I can bring that same knowledge to the city as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Allison's questions or Mr. Mackey, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, again, I'll just reiterate, there's no relation. I actually didn't realize there were any Mackeys in Williamsport. I don't feel about that. I'm kidding. Your current job title, you have listed as universal banker. Could you maybe expand on that a little bit? Exactly what does that mean?
Yes, sir. So the way M&T has it written out is that we are supposed to be able to do everything the bank has a need for, whether it's from just taking care of supplements on the teller side to account maintenance to helping people find things on their statements. One of my more favorite things to do is just to help people research and do budgeting, just because it helps them to see where they are in their monthly day-to-day business. So from that point, then we can take on, say, okay, you can cut back on this, try and do this a little bit more, you watch out for this, make sure that you're not doing expenditures on this. So we kind of help budgeting, kind of help do account servicing. We're like an all-around person that we offer to the bank.
And again, as I mentioned, Mr. Roy, customer service is a big part of this job. Outside of your banking experience, do you have any other customer service experience, or do you have any times in your life where you feel like your customer service experience helped you?
Yes, sir. So I had about 4 years of banking experience. Before that, it was the military school, where again, I'd have to work with kids that either younger than me or older than me at times, to try and make sure that we're all meeting their needs as students and then as fellow peers. So if you look at it from 9th grade is when I really started taking on responsibilities as a leader in my school. If you look at it from about 2011 to currently, it's almost 10, 11 years of experience in customer service.
And I apologize, could you remind me what your degree was?
Managerial economics.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mackey. Any comments or questions from the members of the council or? Ms. Bailey?
Jump back. I mean, as long as we continue, yes. And I will, for the sake of consistency, I think ask the two questions that I asked previously, once again, with expounding the rules on city government works, I'm sure you heard before. There definitely is a possibility of conflicts, disagreements within your working environment, and you obviously would hold a position of equal authority with many of the other people with whom might be in conflict. How do you, and or potentially with your taxpayers to whom you are a servant, so it's, it's a complex position. How have you dealt with conflicts in your working environment and elsewhere in life as far as what do you think?
With conflicts, it's always good to refer back to the rules, make sure you're following rules, regulations set by whoever the primary authority was, whether that be laws written by the council or the city itself. And then from there, just being able to, as Mr. Royal said, work to try and make an understanding, and from there you can take and deal with each situation as they're coming along. You can't really resolve a conflict without understanding.
And then explain to me, I guess, how your pre-management in economics plays into your financial acumen and what made you choose banking. I'm trying to understand your background, I guess, in the same way that I sort of came to understand Mr. Royal's. In part because I'm curious to know how you might look to bring, to help the city economize or bring more to the city through the Treasury Department. But trying to understand your background first.
With managerial economics, the basis of it is trying to find the most efficient way to do things. And we do that by looking at the different sheets available on the financial side. From there, we can make judgments based upon what our statements are giving us, try and find what we can cut back on, what we can expand upon, what's really generating revenue. And from there, when I went to the banking side, it was more about bringing that experience to the customers themselves, helping them with my degree from college.
And then I guess one other question related to budget, just for very design, but talk to me a little bit about dealing with financial constraints within the budgeting process. And perhaps if you want to, Mr. Feder could also take that part of our question. We asking you, but municipalities, I think, more than perhaps any other government entity, find themselves within severe financial constraints most of the time. So that's an important thing to bear in mind when you're looking at running an office. You dealt with that in the past.
I have not run an office before. My management experience mainly comes from what I learned in school. When I was brought to the banking side, there's lots of people that had more experience than I did, and I just had to take what I could and learn from them as I can. When it comes to budgeting, I've always been a big advocate to just trying to look for things where I can kind of make the most efficient use of my money. And then, again, bringing that to my customers as well when I was at the bank.
Thank you.
Mr. Fire, you have a question or two?
The question that I want to ask then is just simply, I don't think anybody's asking, how would you feel about being an elected official? And then again, in about 18 months' time, have to run a re-election campaign for a job that you're still essentially learning the ropes for, because it is not something you're going to learn overnight, and you're going to go through essentially one tax collection season before you have to go through this campaign.
For running a campaign I've never run one before, my mother has actually become more active with that. I can refer to her for some experience. She actually helped some of the New York State Assemblymen get elected back in New York and Hudson Valley. And I can always ask her, and she can give you some advice on that. Those are great for advice. But as far as bringing that to Williamsport, I'd have to learn to do that. As far as learning of the tax season and running a campaign, again, that would be a learning experience for me as well.
Questions from the other members of council? I have a couple. I'll ask the same political question I asked before. Are you a registered Republican?
I actually just registered recently, but I have always leaned right and leaned Republican. That's just for how I've been. I'm not sure if this actually plays anything. I'm not sure about you guys. The past president actually went to New York Military Academy, and I had played tax for one of his mentors in the past couple of years.
It's an interesting piece. Thank you. A couple of questions that just popped into my head. I didn't ask the previous candidate, but I do want to ask you, what do you think your boss would say about you? And I asked, and what do you think your colleagues would say about you? And I just asked that because that's the one real, I think, stark difference between candidates is a little bit of a difference in experience in actually managing people and directly leading people day to day. So what would your boss and your colleagues say about you?
My boss really appreciates the technology experience I've brought to her. She is constantly asking me for help with that. If not for help and advice on how I can make things better for you. Once I got moved to my current branch now, I advocate that we try and make things more efficient, and we've already done a few things that kind of give us a day-to-day basis of how well we're doing with our scorecards. And from that point, we just keep adding on to using it. Communication-wise, I've always tried to keep in touch with my boss on what I'm doing, so she knows where I'm at on the day-to-day side. With my colleagues, again, it's just making sure that we touch base every day, we know how we're doing, and that we're making the most productive use of our time together.
All right, thank you very much. No other questions from other members of the council? Okay. Mr. Mackey, thank you very much. We'll take you off the hot seat now.
Okay.
So
Thank you for your time, guys.
yeah, thank you both very much. So, moving forward, so we have our full council meeting on Thursday. We have on the agenda to accept nominations. Something that I just realized we probably should have asked for both candidates. I mean, you're both currently employed, presume you want to submit a multi-week notice for resignation. What would your planned start dates be? Should you be selected to be treasurer?
Would be 2 weeks for me.
2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks from notification, so.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. So moving forward, on the agenda, we have an agenda item to accept nominations. So members of council will nominate the candidates they deem are a better fit. And then it goes to a vote and majority vote to select next treasurer. So you're both welcome to come on Thursday night. And we'll try to do that earlier in the meeting. So you don't have to stick around, but it might be good to stick around. It's a long agenda, but it might be good to stick around regardless. Just to start to understand how council meetings work and at least the legislative branch of the city of Williamsport functions. So that's the process moving forward. So again, thank you both. It was nice to talk to you, and we appreciate your putting your names in and being part of the process. So thank you very much. We'll move to item 5, announcements. The next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be held on Thursday, April 28th at 7 p.m. here in Trade Transit 2, 3rd floor. Upcoming meetings, Wednesday, April 27th, to be available for you, as I mentioned, Thursday at 7 p.m. is our city council meeting. Are there any comments from members of council? Seeing none, any comments from the administration? The administration is here, aside from Mr. Black.
No.
You guys have comments. Any comments from members of the public? Or members of the public, if there's any final comments you would like to make, I suppose, but I suspect not. And then there's no members of the news media here, so I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much, members of council, for coming out on a Monday evening, and thank you to our esteemed candidates. And have a good evening.
Thank you both.